ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ। ਜਪ ਆਦ ਸੱਚ ਜੁਗਾਦ ਸੱਚ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਸੱਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਵੀ ਸੱਚ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। So today we're going to go through chapter 9. And we just did some reflections on the previous chapter of Uddam in our lives. So pretty much in cap of chapter 8, it was just such an important chapter because of the type of society that we live in. And we can very easily fall into this trap of its hukum. And we really forget the Jeev's kirpa, the kirpa that we have on ourselves to make the Uddam every day, to be, kind of changing our lives. So definitely keep that in mind. Chapter 9 is about udar. So keeping a big heart, being charitable, generosity. This is the theme for chapter 9. In the introduction, Gaviji says, what is the point of earning if it is not given then with generosity? Just like a river does not drink its own water, just as a tree does not consume its own fruit, just as a cloud does not reap the fields it has rained on. In the same way, wise are those that do not accumulate material wealth for themselves, but instead give to others. So even if they are gathering something, even if they are providing something, it's for the other, not for themselves. And I thought these analogies were so beautiful, the way that they mentioned that. Kaviji then says there are 4 things that always takes a person's wealth. These are dharam, the thieves, kings, and fire. The person who does not donate any money towards dharam, so however that may be towards religion, towards charity, towards good cause, if we are not donating our daswand into something good, then the latter 3 will always take it. Gaviji says this is the cycle of life. If you accumulate it to this point, one of these other 3 or all the 3 will take it. The person who does donate to dharam, then that wealth is protected from all of these. So I'll give an example of each of them, the 3. When we come into thieves, for example, if even in the olden days, if you had lots of expensive stuff in your house and even cash, even greedy relatives and friends, they can see that you have extra money, they will always take it from you. They will always ask for you to buy for them. You will be the one shouting their food, shouting their coffees, to the point, that's also a point of thieves, but even to the point of coming into a house and taking things from you. Known people and unknown people. Kings, so in this day and age, it's more like income tax. The more and more that we accumulate without actually then giving back into what needs to be done, then that can even go into income tax. But back in the days, that's more like, the wealth tax, and it's gone to the kings. And fire, so if, for example, your house is just on fire, then all of that is going to be burned down anyway. So that's why it is always better to continuously give to dharam as much as possible. Goviji says that everyone does hard work to earn this wealth. So we go to jobs, we earn our money, but then to sustain it, we do much effort, such as we go to banks, or we try and hide it, or the way that we try and have conversations with other people is so that we don't, let other people know how much money we might have accumulated. So we're trying to keep it safe. And so we're doing lots and lots of efforts, not just to earn this money, but also then to sustain it and to keep it accumulated, to keep it gathered. We're looking at our banks and we're looking at the pilings, saving up, and then we're thinking, oh my gosh, where is it leaking to, and all this kind of stuff. But the best way to use this accumulated wealth keep it safe, is by giving, is by putting it back into the cycle of life, is through dhan. So then Kaviji gives us some more examples. They say, let's use some analogies to understand this better. They say, just like still water in a lake draws many insects, and then it starts smelling foul. And then that water becomes polluted, and it makes people ill when they drink it, and becomes like poison. In the same way, if we accumulate our wealth without letting it flow, like the river, it gets poisoned. So this is, like the lake. On the contrary, Flowing water does not get infested with insects and smells sweet. So our wealth needs to be flowing like that. It should not be stored or still, stagnant. In this way, our wealth should continue to be flowing in life from one space to another, rather than being accumulated, and we should be doing this continuously. Accumulating it only poisons the wealth itself and us. In the way a beautiful poised flower, imagine the most beautiful flower in the world and it's sitting in the middle of a forest. Who's going to be looking at that? Who's actually going to enjoy it? In the same way, if we keep all that wealth collected for ourselves and it's just sitting in the bank, collecting, I'm not sure what, maybe a little bit of interest, then that's not really enjoyed by anyone. And so I guess at the end, I'll share some personal examples as well about this, but I think this is a really big point. Then Kaviji shares these 9 positive gun when it comes to being charitable. So one who has a youthful, healthy body, one who has control over their body senses. That includes taste, what they see, what they smell, what they hear. They've just got control over all these things. One who meditates, so jap and then tap, one who is devotional and disciplined, one who has sweet speech, one who is learnt in knowledge, one who has a big heart, one who keeps humility in their heart, and one who has eradicated their own pride. Kaviji says, if a person has these 9 characteristics, then consider them an embodiment, as an avatar of Parmeshwar themselves in the world. Someone who is like that in this world, consider them as an avatar of Parmeshwar. Kaviji then shares another example, and they say, think about it. They say, and the type of tone in this text starts to get a bit like rhetorical, I guess. They're really trying to challenge you with this. They say, think about how vast and how deep the water runs in an ocean. Like when you see the ocean, all you see is water, and it's so deep, and when you look down, you just don't even know where it ends. However, no matter how far or deep you go, it's salty, and it cannot fulfill anyone's thirst. In comparison, a river that's only knee deep is so beautiful to humans and animals, and it fulfills their thirst. In that way, what is the use of a big businessman who cannot fulfill the need of a beggar? That a humble person who gives this one or that can share with them, if they can still help them. Kaviji taunts that person who has accumulated such wealth and not given. So they give these taunts like, what's that person going to do with the money? Use that cash and patch the roof on a rainy day? Like, what are they going to do with that? Why are you keeping it stored? And in fact, the ocean even has so many jewels and stones, but still its water is useless. On the contrary, a small river can help passerbys with drinking water, and they can even bathe in it, and it can relieve their fatigue. So it's got so many uses for people that are passing by. The smaller amount of water was more giving than even such a vast amount of water found in the ocean. What is the use of such wealth? It is a waste when it's not of use. The smaller wealth, and that when we say smaller wealth, sometimes it's because we have less, but sometimes it's also because we even expect less in life. So it's not like we're going out of our way to earn and become this big businessman. Even we have a humble life ourselves. And so the one received with humility is best, not the greatest accumulation of wealth. And I think you probably will find some Sangat that is a split on this. You'll find people that practice this very differently. So I think this is a text that would be very good to direct them towards, to see if they can think about that a bit differently, the way that they are thinking about money and accumulating money. So here chapter 9 ends. And interestingly, they say, in the way the moon illuminates, which we learn about giving. And so interesting, they don't say the sun, because the sun itself gives light. They say as the moon illuminates, which is radiating that sun's light. So just adding on to that, by Mampi Singh Ji just added at the end of the class that, of course, we're not just talking about money, we're also talking about knowledge and vidya. For example, someone that has only learnt Gurmukhi, but then goes around sharing it with the whole world that this is how we understand Gurmukhi, and thereby that person is then able to read Bard. How much benefit is that person giving in comparison to someone that may have learned so much Vidya, but is not sharing even an ounce of it? So this sharing extends to every aspect of our life in any form of wealth that we have received from Guru. And we have received in each way. So we've received our body and our health. We've received any material wealth. We've received education. We've received our professions. As Mersingdi was saying before, we've received our professions and our education. We've received our family. We've received the country that we live in. So in all these ways that we've received, if we are not then sharing even just a small amount of that on, then what is the point of that having ever been received in the first place? So it could be money, knowledge, time, or resources. And we also need to be considering who is worthy of it so that dharam increases, not the ignorance of the other person and not the ignorance of ourselves. So that means not becoming ignorant or having increase in homme kiyasi dittasi. Do not expect anything in return, not even a thanks. And when giving dhan, keep no expectations. As wise people, we should give one hand to another. This is like a kind of saying, from one hand to another without even realizing that it's been given. So sometimes even when people come over or anything happens, we want to show that we're giving something, but give in such a way that they don't even realize that they've received something and you haven't even realized that you've given something. Also, we have to consider the context. So we have to consider the situation, the time, and the place. So that dhan, the giving, the daswand, is not appropriate for all types of contexts. So really just consider that. I think we went through that in one of the previous chapters. And most of all, consider our own intentions. Just be really, really clear about our own intentions and that we're being completely honest with them when we're engaging in this cycle of giving. So then the Sangat in the class had some Q&A. The first one was, can we use this one for Granths and Saj? And Bhaiman Singh Ji said, if we use this one for Granths or buying Saj or anything, then we should be able to then share it if anyone asks. So if you're like using your Daswand and saying, I'm buying this Saj, if that's out of Daswand, then that what you have purchased is also then collective for the Banth, for the Sangat. Should we accumulate some wealth for personal savings or more, like a house? We should consider this wealth as a Shakti. Today it is with me, tomorrow it may be with someone else. Consider your personal savings, emergency funds, household bills, all these separately on an as-needed basis. So just as a rule of thumb, I think some people like to go by 3 months, some people like to go by 6 months. I think the less the better of how much of an emergency fund you need. But the household bills and all that, just calculate how much all these things are. Sometimes you might think that you need to be accumulating a lot more than what you actually need. And, really try to think about where some of those costs can be saved. So say, for example, you have a phone plan that's really expensive, and then, you know that's going out of pocket, you know that it could be cheaper. That's again going back into Jeevdi Kirpa. We need to be putting that effort in, that making sure that all the costs are as little as possible in the first place. So if we feel we want to share and give, but are afraid of home coming, then how do we know we are even ready to share? The answer was just be clear in your intentions about why you are sharing, why you are being charitable. Further question from that, if our intentions are clear, but there is still fear of trusting ourselves in the process, then the answer was it actually is better not to trust ourselves. Instead, we should remember that all the wealth, wisdom, whatever we are giving is not ours in the first place anyway. We have always received what is that we're passing on. So trust the one who gave it to us and then just pass it on. How do we deal with uncomfortable feelings when we're giving to others? So we should be cautious of where we are giving and that the other is not just manipulating us. In cases of lending money, ask for it to be returned 3 times, and if it isn't, then consider it a karma that had to be gone through. There are some situations where we do reap those karmas, that we do have a loss, or sometimes where we knowingly know that there might be a loss in order to be charitable in a sense, like we're going into it knowing that. Next question, what is daan when Parmeshwar gives us everything? They gave us our body, our wealth, and all. So the answer was, yes, nothing is ours. But when we accumulate any of this due to home, then it is our duty to give it forward. So even though we've received it, the situation is that once we've received it, what are we doing with it? We tend to accumulate it. And so this whole topic is then about our active duty to pass it on, to give it forward. Only by giving forward will the loop of wealth be completed. This is not just money, but also education. For example, if we are learning from Saruktavali, but not sharing it forward, then what good is it? If our soul body is diseased with desires, antyakaran, then how will we see beyond it? How will we become purified to even see beyond that? How will we do that? By embodying the gun we need. And that includes this one of daan, of being charitable. Next question, are realization and darshan the same thing? No. Darshan has three aspects: the seer that perceives it, the shakti with which you perceive, and thirdly, the object with which you are perceiving. So darshan is not the end destination. Yes, in darshan, we come to realize the source of the bliss, but realization is when all three of these become one. That is, one becomes what one was looking for. That was such a beautiful answer by Viji. Next question. If we do, for example, car investment and get profit over years, then do we also need to give this land out of this? Answer, yes, absolutely. Whatever we earn, we should give from it. We should also give our time and our education. In fact, here there is a myth that people who are teaching must be complete and, just know everything. However, the people that are teaching are continuously learning from themselves through the process, through revising and following up on anything they feel that has been missed. It was a long Q&A. And so the next question, how do we understand on the opposite when and what to receive? I should say what. So the answer was, whenever there is a need, we should receive it openly, but wherever there is a want, we should think it over 100 times before we receive that. Next question, when we speak of tap, there are many different types of these tap, these penances. Are these good? And answer, Maharaj says that whether it is satoguni, rajoguni, tamoguni tap, the type of penances that we do, that is not will get us to the spiritual state that we want. What we need is naam. So do as you like, but do not put the expectation that that will bring the spiritual attainment. For that, you have to have naam. However, for situations like being sick, we should practice accordingly. For example, tamoguni tap, where you kind of restrain your food and stuff so that you can actually heal quicker. So your body's not just focusing on digesting food so much. And that was the end of the class. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.